Don't worry.
Thank you.
Daniel, quick turnaround. Can we catch up with any relevant team news with regards to fitness, injuries, that sort of thing?
No bigger concerns, so no one picked up an injury during the game. Obviously, during this time of the year, sometimes here and there, players struggling a bit with some symptoms of a cold or whatever, but nothing that should disturb us from bringing our best possible lineup on the pitch. So obviously we have but it's also important to be prepared for different scenarios. So we want always to bring our principles on the pitch, but obviously it differs a little bit. Also the way how we want to attack. Quite often, the opponent tries to close the center against us, and you have to use the wings a bit more. And how to do this, we prepare the lads for us. But sometimes also during the game, you got the feeling, okay, the opponent, for example, concentrates a bit more, like closing also perhaps our wingers down or attacking fullbacks down, and then we try to find solutions more through the center, or sometimes to explore with a relatively easy chip ball the space in behind. So I think it's important to stay flexible and to be flexible in order to be not to be predictable. But I'm also not a friend of changing too much just to show the outside world how well prepared we are and how tactical fluent we are and that we're just capable of. I think whenever we choose something in order to change anything with the base formation or with our general principles or approach in the game, it should be beneficial in order to help and not just stand for itself. So it's always about to find good solutions, but the problem is quite often you just know after the game if it was a correct solution. There's also no guarantee that if you would have chosen a different way, that would be more successful. So for that, yes, you have to take the decisions before the game, but in general, we always try to be ourselves on the pitch.
And about a week or so ago, you mentioned about having to find a sort of new balance with Tanaka and with Rothwell. What exactly have you said and done with them to make sure that they, I'm not saying replicate, but do a lot of the stuff that Gruev and Ampadu would do?
Well, we can't make other players out of them, and I don't want to make this. So we want also to use their skills. They are both absolutely tidy on the ball, and they have lots of imagination and creativity in going forward, and also breaking the lines of the opponent with their passes, or sometimes also like Joe did a lot in the last game to drive the ball forward out of deeper position, or bring themselves into positions where they can perhaps play the finishing pass or to be there with the finish themselves. So we want to support this. So I like to play players more like in their best position, also to use their strength instead of focusing too much on what they're not capable to do and try to improve this. But of course, if you play in the center of the game, to have a fitness level that is also then capable of covering ground, of doing the defensive work, of being good also in the transition moments, also once the opponent wins the ball, then to come back quick enough. This is something we have to work on, and especially for RO, his first steps in English football. Joe came out of more or less 2 seasons where he rarely played 90 minutes. He also needs a few games in order to gain his match fitness and his rhythm. I think it had more to do in terms of their fitness level, but then also to work a bit on their awareness level against the ball. So that we have a good positioning also against the ball, that their distance between each other is close to perfect against the ball, that they also know, okay, if in our possession a player goes into a wider position where the other player has to be, where we position ourselves once we attack the opponent's half. So there's lots of work to do, although they are good players and like in Joe's case, also experienced players. But of course, it differs when you play in a different approach, perhaps for a team who goes more for second balls or whatever. So for that, even for experience and really good players, it needs a bit of time to adapt also to the thinking of a manager and what we want to do. And it's always consistent working, and each and every week you speak about a few things that were good or you can improve. And I have to say, especially in the last games, they got better from game to game, and long may it continue.
Dan, we noticed before the game the other night, on what was a wet day, you really wet the pitch. Was that something you've asked for specifically? And if so, why? What's the advantages or disadvantages, or how does it make you play any differently?
Yes, obviously we try to... We concentrate in preparing a game when it comes down to our tactical approach or to the individual players, and take care for each and every % that is important. And for that, it's also crucial that you try everything what is in your control to prepare it in the best possible way, and also not to overlook 1 or 2%. And for example, we face quite often opponents who are sitting deep, and where it's important to hold the speed of the game high. And obviously then also a wet pitch always helps. Yeah, our pitches anyway quite often really dry, and if you play pass over a dry pitch anyhow, so it just lasts a bit longer. And in football, it's all about time. If you can be a bit quicker and the ball is not stopping on a dry pitch, it's important to also to do this. Or for example, also with the ball boys, it's important that they're not sleepy. They try to hold the speed high. So. Of the game, perhaps not once we're in lead 1-0 in the 94th minute, then you can be also be a bit relaxed. But in general, so for us, it's important to hold the speed high, because our approach will always be that, we try to hold the tempo that high that the opponent at some point cracks at any point under pressure. And for that, it's also important that the surface of the pitch is perfect. I'm not a greenkeeper. I don't tell them they are the specialists how to do the job, but they know my wish that I want on the surface, really quick surface that we can pass the ball quick. Obviously, I think during the game it didn't rain, and also although it has rained a lot over the day, but then the surface is not wet anymore. So for that, you still have to water it a bit in order to make sure that. Not the pitch is wet, but more like the surface is wet in order to be good in the passing. We also always look into this. And also once a ball boy is a bit sleepy, I try in a gentle way, of course, to explain why it is important in order to hold the speed of the game up. So we need to have a look under each and every stone if there is perhaps 1% that we can use in our favor. And this is what we're trying to do.
How much closer are you to maybe bringing a free agent in, Daniel, anymore since Friday?
Yes, a bit closer, like I mentioned. So, latest by the end of next week, we'll have a decision made in any direction. But it can also happen quick, and let's see what the next days will bring.
How was Willie Gnonto's shoulder on Friday night, and how close were you to substituting him?
Very close. So I brought already Mano Solomon to the bench after 10 minutes, and he got rid of his warm-up clothes, and then Willie gave a sign, it's slightly improving. So I was a bit nervous also after the game, because sometimes with all the adrenaline, and you can keep going, but there is a serious injury. But we've scanned him, and thank God it's just a bruise on his shoulder when he fall down after a little foul. So no major injury. It was a bit painful, but has already eased up a little bit. And for that, I think he's available.
Watford have been incredible at home and find it difficult away. Why is home comfort so crucial for so many teams? And what factors can go into a team struggling when they go on the road?
I don't know. So I'm not a big believer in making such a big difference also in the approach between home and away games, because my feeling is also it's the same game, the same rules, and you still have to play 11 against 11 and try to score a goal and try to avoid to concede. But of course, so you always feel a bit more comfortable. It's like a normal life, to be in your own living room, you feel comfortable, and if you have to go somewhere, it's always a bit tension. So one thing is definitely, yes, the travel. It's always easier if you don't have such a long travel, and you can sleep more or less in your own bed before a game instead of being in the hotel. That's definitely could be sometimes also a bit drying or take the energy away. Yes, second topic is definitely also the supporters. So it's always nice, to play for us, for example, in front of a full-packed Elland Road, where 95% of the stadium is just supporting you and encourage you, and you can't really afford to stop running, because everyone cheers you up, and sometimes especially young players can struggle a bit when the whole away stadium is against you. some also rise to the occasion, especially a bit more the experienced players. But once you have a young side, it could also be sometimes a bit tricky. I wouldn't say this is the case in Watford's case, because they have players like Ogbonna, like Sissoko, unbelievably experienced side. So sometimes also a bit coincidence. And yes, I'm not sure. Without VAR and something like this, sometimes you also get a bit the feeling, although it's definitely not on purpose, but perhaps also a few decisions, and also sometimes crucial decisions, go a bit more in your favor at home instead of away, because also referees, they have a difficult job, and I don't blame them at all, but they are also just human beings. And if 40,000 are crying for a penalty in the stadium, they are perhaps even a bit more tempted to give it, instead of if no one cries and it's a clear penalty. So yes, it's perhaps more or less the sum up of all these reasons that makes it more likely that you have a better home record than away record. But actually, we try wherever we play to be more or less with the same game on the pitch, and so far we're good also in the away games, also unbeaten in the away games. I think in Watford's case, it's perhaps a bit coincidence. I would say, because I'm pretty sure they also win games on the road, but hopefully not tomorrow night.
Hi Daniel, when the team plays as well as it did on Friday, I would assume the temptation is you don't want to change anything. You want to keep a winning team together and build those relationships that they're putting together at the moment. So how hard is it to fight that temptation when you know it's a busy week and fatigue is going to be an issue? We know about the international break, so how hard is it to manage that balance in your head?
Yes, it depends a bit on. It could also be that once you're playing too long together with the same starting lineup, you got the feeling, okay, I need to bring some new energy in. But also, especially in several positions, we had also changes in the last weeks. We spoke about the central midfield because Joe and Ao were not involved that much in the games before. It's still important that they get a bit more rhythm, or it also changes a bit more, like in the offensive roles. Largi has not started that often. Joel is also starting in the striker role just in the last two games. So it doesn't feel like we're playing too long always with the same setup, and it depends a bit on the situation. So I think by our standards right now, this turnaround is definitely okay, because we had at least 3 days and 4 proper nights between the games. So for that, a professional athlete after this turnaround should be able to play again, because everyone wants to play, and when you have 4 proper nights at home and 3 days between the games, and then you wouldn't be fit to perform again, there would be something wrong, or we wouldn't do our job in a professional way, or the players wouldn't do this if they're not available. But yes, sometimes it also has tactical necessities. What you think, okay, what is important for this game, and you also have an eye on what happens on the training pitch. When you have such a quick turnaround, obviously it's not that easy for the players who are not involved to impress on the training pitch, because obviously you don't have too many training sessions. So this case is then perhaps not that important, but the other cases are, and for that you try to be there with the best solution. But it's also important that you, of course, you want to please the whole squad, but that you're not too caught in between. Just always speak about winning the Nobel Peace Prize. It's not just to make everyone happy. It's just about we want to win points. And for that, sometimes if you rotate too much and if you try to please everyone too much, then it could also be that in the end you please no one. And could be sometimes also like good if you have the principle, no, if you perform, if you deliver, then you keep your place, and if you don't perform, okay, then perhaps a different guy gets a chance. So it feels a bit, it should be quite often a bit more this way, and this is what we're doing quite often. But I wouldn't rule out that there is sometimes also 1 or 2 change out of purpose because of tactical reasons or fatigue. Yes.
When we asked you about free agents last week, you mentioned you'd had some special guests at Thorpe Arch. Are those special guests playing a part in training? How big a part do they play? Is it just fitness work that you might have asked them to do, or do they get more involved?
Yes, Lucas Rodebe was around. I was surprised that he didn't bring his boots, because I wanted to achieve a bit on the training pitch, but he was a bit more in our canteen and had some proper food anyhow, and great chats, and he's an unbelievable guy. It's great to have him around. Now, I don't speak too much what happens behind closed door. A few guests also doesn't mean that they are just trialists in. I've also read some articles who was in or whatever. We wouldn't have that much space here at the training ground to have all the players who are linked with being on the trial. So sometimes it's also funny, and no, I don't lift the curtain anyhow. So it's more like yes, there were a few people around, but it doesn't mean it's just players anyhow who are here on trial or competing against each other or whatever. What we do is on a professional level, and we do it also like sticking to the rules and having the right decisions. And then let's see what the outcome is.
Daniel, when you talk about the pace at which you try to play the ball, how much do you factor in Elland Road or even the away games to keep the supporters involved in the game with the tempo of it?
Yeah, first of all, we need our supporters. It's one of the biggest assets of this club, and I think also why it makes it so unique. And also for this game, it feels a bit like we're also important against Watford that they are also on their best level again. I know, so they spend so much time, and it's a pretty time-consuming sport, and I'm grateful that they invest so much in their time and also money in terms of the travels and the tickets anyhow, and they are second to none, not just in this league but in the whole country, and we need them. It's also important that they also show up in a proper way on tomorrow, because yes, Friday night, floodlights against Sheffield United, big rivalry anyway, weekend is ahead, it's a bit easier to be excited than after a long working day to tomorrow. But we need them in the same way, because I expect a difficult game, and for that we need the support also in difficult moments. Yes, and it's more like it's a connection. Once we are playing well, they are even more excited, but also the other way around. So it's important then when we have perhaps even not our best spell or a difficult spell, they need to be there and help us a little bit, because I think when you have a perfect unity between team supporters, then you can be successful in this club. And when it's all a bit scruffy and it's a bit against each other, so we had also difficult moments in the last couple of years, then it's for no one really exciting, and also a bit difficult. Sometimes we also have to make sure that we're not overexcited, and I know this is also sometimes a bit tricky when you play in front of such a unbelievable crowd, and everyone is excited, and it feels like the stadium is exploding. Then to stay smart and not to overdo it with the passes, and to play each and every time for the most risky pass, and you have to make sure that you don't end up in a transition game like in basketball, and you give the ball too much away. So sometimes you have to be a bit careful and over not to be overdriven by the emotions. So we also speak about this topic, but in general, so to hold the pressure high. It's not like just with the pace of the ball, the pace of the passes, and the tempo of the game, but also in terms of the atmosphere, because this is also what can impress opponents, and we definitely need this. It's just important that the players don't overdo it. So our supporters can overdo it and go mental and go crazy, and that's also okay. They can also rely on that we stay cool when it's needed and stay smart. And if my young players are sometimes overdoing it, I calm them down. We have a great connection at the moment, and hopefully it continues.
And since Joe Rothwell's been in the starting lineup, do you think he's brought anything extra in terms of the set pieces, obviously with his deliveries?
Yes, not each and every delivery was spot on, I have to say, but in general, yes, of course. Yes, he's also a different player, and we know what he's capable of in terms of going forward and playing the second class or perhaps even the last pass, but also in terms of set pieces. So he's also can be a goal threat. Hasn't shown this too much, but had also a good few strikes, and I'm also hopeful that he can also chip in with some goals and some assists. And thank God, he has already chipped in with a good assist. But also in terms of set pieces, so there's room for improvement. I think Joe played excellent in the last game, but there were also one or two mistakes in his passing, one or two mistakes in against the ball, and one or two mistakes where he can be even better with his deliveries. There is no doubt about this. There's always space for improvement, but overall we are all happy that we have him, and he proves his worth at the moment. And I think it's when he's on his game, it's also a joy to watch, because he can make your game even more fluent than perhaps any other player in his position. I like a lot what he's delivering at the moment.
Hi, Daniel. How would you characterise Watford's approach, and would you anticipate that they would be a playoff contender as the season wears on?
Yes, definitely, because it's also a side who was used to play in the Premier League, and if we're honest, so they have played in the last 20 years more on Premier League level than we as a club. So for that, we always have to respect this and to be respectful, and also their claim will also be that they want to be back on Premier League level. Yes, I think they have a really good blend out of some young talents, but especially also out of experienced players. Yeah. Players like Ogbonna, like Sissoko. Yeah, of course, they're perhaps not in their absolute prime anymore, but they know exactly, they've played on the highest level. They know exactly what is necessary in order to win games. It's a pretty physical side, especially in the center of the park, but they also have some creativity and goal threats up front. And I think especially at home, they have proven that they can beat each and every team in this league. And also in the second part of last season, they have won many points, and yeah, just are right now even they are just 2 points, I think, out of the playoff positions. Were in the top 6 on the game day before, and I think they're also desperate to turn back into the top 6. So it's definitely one of the main contenders for the top positions in this league, and for that, yes, we have to be on it again.
And just on Patrick Bamford, where's he at the moment? How do you see his role going forward? And are you having to rebuild him mentally a little bit as well as physically with the problems that he's had?
No, Patrick obviously was struggling in the last months a lot with some physical problems due to injuries, and of course this is what we have to rebuild. But no one has to be concerned about his mental position, because Patrick is an unbelievable smart guy. He's also experienced, and he knows that there are sometimes ups and downs after injury. And from the first day when I walked into Thorpe Arch and I walked also into this role, I didn't hide my appreciation and my admiring for Patrick Bamford, because for me, he hasn't to prove anything anymore. He's a top-class player, and I spoke about this, that I'm 100% sure that with a fully fit Patrick Bamford, we would play in the Premier League right now, because we missed him in the run-in a lot, and obviously he was our go-to guy after a bit tricky first part of the season, but especially in the second half of last season. So it's no coincidence that we had our best spells also in terms of point average when he was in the starting lineup, and put in a shift always and scored goals and chipped in also with assists. He was unbelievably important for us. Yes, of course, I would have wished it a bit in a bit different way, that he would have been available in the last week. He missed them in the last weeks of the last season. Obviously, he missed them. He missed also more or less a proper recovery during the summer break, because he was in his rehab training. He missed major parts of preseason, and once he was back, 2 weeks back in training, sadly there was another hamstring injury and another slight issue. So he never came into the rhythm, and I think in general, so then you have to adapt a bit also to the reality, and you have to say that Matteo Joseph and Joel Perreault have used also their chances in terms of having more game time during preseason. I think both of them were fantastic in preseason, and the same in the start of the season. Matteo chipped in with really good performances, with hard work. I think it was already 3 assists and 2 goals. Perhaps not that much with the goal scoring boots on in the last weeks, but thank God in the last game. And then also Joel Perreault stepped up and is already on 4 or 5 goals. Also assists, really good performances, hard work. And then you have to adapt to this. And then it's also like, although Patrick is back right now, also in terms of being fit, also to accept, okay, he has to wait a little bit patient till there is a situation. I'm quite sure when you have such a CV like Patrick, you also have the tendency a bit like, okay, come on, I want to have it quicker, because we don't have to speak about this. He has played for England, he has a cap for England, he has scored double figures in the Premier League. He was without any doubt also the best striker on championship level, and has chipped in for this club with many goals for promotion. He has chipped in with so many goals and has done so much also for this club. that you're then not perhaps overly happy and overexcited if it lasts perhaps even a bit longer after injury, and you're just sitting more or less by his standard just on the bench in the championship and just chip in with a few minutes, or sometimes also in recent weeks you just wait a bit on the bench. Of course, I wouldn't be happy if Patrick would be happy with such a scenario, because for that he's done too brilliant. He has too much quality. But that's just reality. So I'm not just here to please any player. It's more like I have to adapt to the reality. And if other players are delivering and also bring some good performances in, I have to take this in order to make my decisions. Who plays, who gets minutes, and then it's a bit like, come on, work hard, and I can't complain about anything. Even he came in 5 minutes. We were 2-0 up, and sometimes for such an experienced player and also such a proud player, it could be also sometimes tricky to come in just for 5 minutes. But he didn't show himself in a way annoyed anyhow. He came in and helped a lot in order to work, put a shift in, made sure that we were rock solid. So really professional. And also his behavior in the dressing room with the young lads, he still gives some hints to Matteo and is meanwhile also an excellent fitness level again, because he's working hard. I'm so pleased, that there's also perhaps 1 or 2 times a day on the training pitch when you're not playing with this CV, that you're not in the best mood and you're not dancing on the table. That's quite normal. But I was a striker as well, and I was also a pretty proud player, and I have full understanding for this. So my appreciation for Patrick and how important he is for our group, we're a pretty young group and we need this experience, will never go away. So for me, he's a crucial player. He's already a Leeds United legend. There is no doubt. Yeah, but you also have to adapt a bit to the reality, and the reality was that he was struggling with a few injuries, and then you have to take in account that some other players are rising and delivering. But I'm pretty sure that Patrick will be very, very important also for us during the season. He is, for me, still important, but he will also be a bit more in the spotlight over the upcoming weeks and months. And then also no one has to be concerned about his mental place. He's much too experienced and much too smart in order to struggle. Good. Thanks very much.